Have you ever wondered why your dog still doesn't trust you, even though you're doing everything for them, maybe even force-free training? Well, sometimes it's the little moments in day-to-day life where we lose that trust, and not in well-prepared training sequences. Because the uncomfortable truth is, we say we want a partnership, but the moment our dogs don't behave the way we want, we still slip into control, pressure, power struggles, because on the one hand, we have learned nothing else, and well-behaved is still more important than an actual, happy, well-balanced partner. So we demand a level of compliance we would never tolerate from another human being, no matter how close we are. But if we act like tyrants, we can never expect trust to build. And I get it. It's embarrassing when our dogs bark at other dogs or people. It hurts, or at least is very annoying when they pull. It's scary when we hear that very deep growl when we come too close to a bone or the food bowl. And it's super frustrating when they just won't listen or get scared about everything and anything, even if they have seen it a gazillion times already. So we do what we've been told, right? We try to be more consistent because they have to learn. We think we have to make them listen to us. But the thing is, the dogs are not being disobedient. They are living, breathing creatures, and whatever they do for a reason. And that's definitely not to annoy us. It could be trauma, discomfort, overwhelm, unmet needs, or even underlying medical issues. And the behavior is the only language they have to show us that there is something wrong. So helping a rescue dog, or any dog really, be a better companion is not just about better training techniques. It's about becoming someone our dogs can actually feel safe with. And that means we can stick to force-free, reward-based training all we want. If our day-to-day life looks everything but force-free, trust will not develop. Because our dogs learn who we are in every moment we spend together. So what if I told you that the most well-meaning interactions, the ones you think are bonding, or the ones you don't think about at all, are the very things that destroy your dog's trust? If we aren't paying any attention to the micro moments, we are missing the root causes of the big outbursts and the huge problems. So to become our dog's safe haven and to build that bond, that unbreakable bond that can fix anything and everything, we need to rebuild our identity using 3 huge pillars. Number 1, safety as a ground rule for training. Trust starts with feeling safe. If our dogs are in a constant state of alarm, they cannot learn. That means we need to stop forcing. Stop the forced greetings, stop the forced touching, stop the flooding. That means no more telling strangers, yes, you can pet my dog, if your dog is not actively asking the stranger to touch them. No more hold still, I'm just checking your paw, without giving the dog any choice. No more don't be such a baby if your dog's afraid. Stop the getting used to it. Your dog isn't learning anything if they're paralyzed by fear. Yes, dogs can get used to scary stuff, but this desensitization training is something that has to be done very, very carefully, and not just with throwing the dog into the deep end and hoping for the best, right? Instead, we can start advocating for our dogs. That means we protect them from overwhelming people, dogs, and chaos. That is not a slower training process. It's the only sustainable way for your dog to learn to be comfortable with new things and scary things. We need to internalize a deep respect for our dogs as individuals. That means their body is their own. They can decide what happens to it. Of course, within safety reasons, right? If they have a gaping wound somewhere, we need to go to the vet, right? But we do not need to wipe off their paws if that's super uncomfortable for them and we have not spent time training it. Or if we decide we don't like their drool, and we need to wipe it off, we are responsible to teach them to do that voluntarily. Same goes for emotions. Our dogs' emotions are valid. So if they show big emotions, they get scared about something, however silly that might seem to us, it's not silly for them. They are not acting and they're not trying to manipulate us. So it's our job to help them navigate our human world. We also need to switch the power struggle lens for a more realistic one. Our dogs aren't trying to overpower us, become the alpha, dominate us, or win. They are doing the best they can with the information they have in the situation we put them into. All right. Same goes for us. If we don't know what to do, we will try to do the best we can, right? And if we don't give them any information, they will do what serves them and their needs best. Same goes for if what we ask isn't worth their while, so there's nothing in it for them, they might do what's more fun. Same as for us, right? If we go to work every single day and our boss decides one day that from now on we get to work for a cookie instead of a paycheck, we might do something that's more fun, right? Same for our dogs, but more about that a little bit later. What that lens shift does is it gives us the freedom to stop being more strict out of the fear of losing control. Our dogs basically want to cooperate with us. They have proven that over thousands of years. Why should that be different now? We just need to let them. And if you're not sure about whether or not something you want to do with your dog is okay, there is a very, very simple guideline. Ask yourself, would you want somebody to do this to you? If the answer is no, then you should probably not do that to your dog either. Pillar number 2, we become clearer so our dogs get the chance to cooperate with us. I still meet many dogs who seem to be named no, but no does not give our dogs any information about what we want them to do. So it's a dead end, and confusion can very much look like disobedience. So what we need to do is we need to stop saying no all the time and instead tell our dogs what we want. And then we need to set them up for success. So whatever we want of them has to be possible, because we cannot get annoyed if they just aren't able to do what we ask them to do. Let me give you an example. If your dog freaks out whenever they see a dog-like object on the horizon, we can hardly ask them to stay calm when there is an actual other dog on the other side of the street, right? Even worse, if we ask something they have never heard before. And we will talk about expectations in pillar number 3 again. For now, let's just say we cannot ask something that is not possible. Same as if I'm giving you a driving lesson in a stick shift car simulator in your living room, and then I tell you, next time you will drive a Ferrari through the busiest city in the world. That will not work, right? And you will probably question my sanity. But we do the same thing to our dogs all the time. We expect them to know how to sit in a busy street when we have only taught them how to do that in the living room. Even worse, when it's raining and our dogs do not like wet ground and they just don't want to sit down in that. Or, and I see that very often, we ask them to look at us when there is a squirrel in catching distance, when we haven't trained that at all, just because they're dogs and they should know that. But dogs aren't born pre-programmed with human cues, right? They need to learn that, and it's our responsibility to teach them. So what we can do is we can reward early. Like if our dogs start pulling, we have waited too long. We can mark and reward the check-in before the tension, or we can catch them lifting their head up before they charge the door and bark at the mailman. The principle behind this is before every unwanted behavior, there is something that we can at least live with. So before the bark, there is a look. Before the jumping up, there is an excited wiggle. and so on. It's on us to catch that and not let our dog slip up. If we are too slow, it's our responsibility. Again, we have put our dogs in this situation. And that brings us to being fairer, so our dogs know what they can expect from us. And that includes recognizing that needs are not privileges. We need to ask ourselves on a daily basis if our dog's need for sniffing, sleep and rest, movement, and social interaction, besides their hobbies, are actually met. Because so often I still hear tips, even from trainers, like ignore them all day inside so they will listen to you outside. That is just unsociable and it doesn't work. Same as remove privileges so the dog knows who's boss. Meaning something like the dog will stop barking at other dogs because they are no longer allowed to chill on the sofa. That just makes them more uncomfortable and has never worked. Dogs cannot connect these dots. On the contrary, the less opportunity we give our dogs to meet their needs and the fewer needs they can meet, the more they lose their balance and the more problems we get. Simple example, a dog who likes other dogs but never gets to interact with one is very likely to start barking at other dogs on leash because they're just frustrated and they want to get to the other dog. It's like if you're really tired and I act like I'm giving you a cup of coffee, but as soon as you reach for it, I take it away again. That's insanely frustrating, right? So even if we train really nicely to get rid of the leash reactivity, so the craziness on leash, if the need for social interaction is not met, chances are we will not get rid of the leash reactivity completely. And as long as we're talking about expectations, the results we can expect depend on the needs that are met. And as long as we're talking about expectations, if we don't reward, we don't get what we want. I sometimes still hear, well, he should do what I ask because either I said so or because he loves me. Well, right, but our love, should be unconditional, right? And not something our dogs need to work for. So expecting our dogs to ignore another dog or a bunny because they love us so much is neither fair nor realistic. One more thing, never underestimate context. We need to consider the stress bucket, same as for us. If we're completely stressed out, we cannot perform just as well as if we're completely relaxed and recently back from a vacation, right? If your dog had a traumatic past, is currently in pain or stressed out because of some kind of other reason, lower your expectations. Because your dog might just not be able to meet them, either on this day or at all. These are the basic guidelines to stop being a tyrant and start being a safe base for our dogs. You can become a guide, a translator, and an advocate for your dog if you choose to. You can move from asking, how can I make them listen, to what do they need to succeed? This isn't permissive. This is proactive. And you can still have boundaries without intimidation. You can still have structure without a power struggle. It just needs your choice. So if you're up for it, for the next 24 hours, don't ask for a single command. Just observe your dog. How often do you pull them away from a sniff, interrupt the rest, or react with annoyance to their communication? The trust you're looking for is built in these small, everyday moments. Are you ready to see your dog for who they actually are? If you're brave enough to allow the shift, and yes, I know, it feels scary because it goes against everything we've learned so far, but if you allow it, you can open the door to a bond that carries so much trust, nothing will break you apart ever again. And the next step is to give your dog an actual voice to be able to tell you when they want to be touched and when they don't want that. Are you ready for that? Watch this video next.